Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie and I am delighted to introduce a conversation reflecting on some of NVIDIA's big agentic AI innovations from January 2025. And joining me for that conversation are two very special guests. Yesterday, I'm delighted to be joined by Erik, the Senior Director of Enterprise AI Software at NVIDIA, and Zeus, the Principal Analyst at CK Research. It's great to have you both join me. And to start, I'll start with you, Erik, as I specifically want to talk about three of NVIDIA's releases from CES earlier this month. And first, let's maybe start with the new set of blueprints to help build AI agents for the enterprise. I don't know what you can tell us about these.
No, thanks for having me, Charlie. And we're in an interesting time as AI technology is progressing very quickly. The application of this technology is amazing and is transforming industries and as well as the way that we work. And we're now on kind of the start of this next wave of AI with agentic AI, as we're moving beyond kind of simple AI chatbots that can help us answer questions into AI applications that can help us take on more complex tasks. And these agents they'll work alongside us, and they'll work for us, and it's going to really help us focus on higher level tasks that provide more value to our functions and our business, and allow us to just get a lot more done. So it's a really exciting time. So at CES we made some announcements that are intended to help our partners, our ISV partners, our solution integrator partners, as well as our end customers and enterprises adopt more agentic AI capabilities. So we announced some new models that we're tuning to really take on some of the tasks around agentic AI, and then some blueprints that are intended to be a starting point, for developers in building these AI agents for some specific capabilities, as well as across various industries.
Yeah, excellent stuff there. And there was one blueprint in particular that I think NVIDIA gave a special press release for, and that was the blueprint for AI agents that can analyze video. I don't know why you can tell us this, if you can tell us why this announcement was so significant.
Yeah, I mean, most of the AI applications that we've been all leveraging to date has been very text driven, and I know there's been a lot of chatter about have we tapped into all the data that's available to us, and well, the reality is there's a lot of knowledge that's embedded in images and video, and as well as the use cases out there that we could benefit from if we could more analyze video in real time. So we built a blueprint for video search and summarization, where you can search through this video, whether it's in batch or real time, and have functions where you can take a lot of complex video and really distill that down and summarize that. The applications are amazing across sports media broadcast or in manufacturing, improving efficiency, improving workplace safety. There's just tons of cameras, enterprise grade cameras that are deployed worldwide, and just a small sliver of that video is actually analyzed. People think that there's people sitting there watching video all the time. It's like less than 1% of that video is being looked at in real time. So a lot of opportunities to leverage that video content and improve the way we work.
I think one of the interesting things you said there, Erik, was just that people think there's people watching videos all the time. And there are. The problem is, with human scale, you can only watch about 1% of the video all the time, right? And I've talked to the PGA Tour, the NFL, the NHL, some of the big retail brands about these types of things. And now, like, for instance, for an NFL team to release a recap video from a football game, they used to work all night to be able to get it out the next day or Tuesday, perhaps, right? Now, with using agentic AI, they can actually scan through every video of every minute of the game and have it out in like literally minutes, right, after the game is finished. And so from a fan perspective, it's tremendous. You think of like the PGA Tour, there are literally hundreds of thousands of shots taken. They're all being filmed to some degree, but what we see on TV is a very small percentage of them. And so, and the PGA Tour is working on things like being able to add commentary to shots that aren't on TV, right? And so we're creating experiences that you couldn't experience before. And I think one of the more notable things that you guys have done is create multimodal, right? So I can go, because historically we've been going text to text or speech to speech. You can go speech to text, text to speech, video to speech. In fact, one of the ones you demoed at CES was the ability to go from PDF to podcast, right? And I thought that was really interesting. That I don't know if you saw this, Charlie, but it was you could take a PDF report, convert it to a podcast, say I want 2 different speakers, and then make the podcast interactive. So while I'm listening to the podcast, I can interrupt it and ask it a question. And so multimodality and interactivity isn't something we've ever been able to do with our media before. And I mean, when you think about that, the possibilities of what you can do are almost endless here. So,
yeah, and I think also from that, maybe this is too big a jump for myself, but if I'm thinking from a customer experience world, like the possibility that gives like avatars almost to kind of to take some information from a PDF or something and to convey that to a customer, or within the framework of a customer service conversation. I think there's lots of really great possibilities there to consider.
I think where you may see that, Charlie, is with information that's a little sensitive, right? Like if you're looking through healthcare info and it's being relayed to you through, a virtual assistant or agent, you being able to see somebody, even though it's virtual, might actually make it a little more comforting than just having it be dictated to you or sent you in an email, right? So I think there are use cases for that where you wouldn't want that, or even perhaps shopping, being able to see how clothing looks on an avatar versus and the way it sits and stuff. So that, especially one that's designed to look like you, that would give you a good idea how those work. So I do think there are use cases for that.
Yeah,
and developers are going to have many options for the user interface and the user experience that they put in front of these applications and these AI agents. And in some cases, it will be a text introduction. In some cases, these agents will work with other agents. Sometimes it will just be an API. And some will be a speech interface. Some will be a full digital human interface. At CES, Jensen showed the art of the possible with a full digital human interface. And in some applications, that that could be the ideal interface to provide that best customer experience. The way that we're building these blueprints is that they can be used together. They can be decomposed. So we're trying to give developers, ideas, starting points, a lot of options for how they can get going and build the AI powered application that's right for their use case.
I think the importance of the blueprint too, Erik, is just, the name blueprint, I think, is very accurate to what it is. Because historically, if I'm a developer, and before I was an analyst, I actually used to be in corporate IT and I did a lot of development. There was a lot of heavy lifting on the developer to understand what components to go get and put together. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but I know in a lot of cases you would spend literally months, sometimes years after the deployment of the app, tweaking and tuning it to get all the components right? So NVIDIA has done all the heavy lifting there. And if I follow the guidelines on these blueprints, then I know these are the right components to deploy in the right, in this order, to make sure that as I roll these applications out, they're going to work. And this is really important today, because when you look at its use case in retail and other customer-facing applications, my research shows that customer experience is now the number one brand differentiator. In fact, last year, 2/3, I guess in 23 now, 2/3 of millennials admitted that they changed loyalties to a brand because of a single bad experience, right? So if I'm going to roll these things out and I'm going to tell my customers this is going to change the way they interact with me, boy, they better work, coming out of the block, because if not, then somebody else's does. I'm going to wind up losing their loyalty to that brand, right?
Yeah. I mean, the possibilities though for these technologies, just as you were both talking there, it's really incredible, actually. But we've kind of covered the blueprints very well there. But I do also want to move the conversation on to talk about the new set of Llama, Nemotron LLMs that
I do want to just finalize one thing Erik said, though, that it's by going from agentic AI or to agentic AI, it's the ability for these to complete entire tasks, right? And when you think of the difference between a co-pilot, where I maybe ask it a question and get a response back, right? This is really, I think Jensen characterized it this way, is it's more a co-worker in which I'm going to give it a complex task to do, and it's going to go off and complete it wholly, right? And then thereby allowing me to go complete other things. And so, that's a notable difference from where we were with generative AI.
Yeah. And there was a really great collaborative use case of agentic AI that I saw in the contact center actually very recently. There was an agent that would take all customer transcripts and analyze them to kind of figure out how a contact center agent would solve a particular query. Then it would give that intelligence to another agent that would take the intelligence that bot has derived and put it into a knowledge article. And then that knowledge article would feed the customer-facing AI agent who would kind of handle that conversation fully themselves. So that's kind of cycle of AI agents working together is helping to automate a lot more queries for contact centers. That's the promise anyway. It'll be fascinating to see. I'm sure there's lots more use cases out there to beyond the contact center. But yeah, just switching back to the Llama Nemotron LLMs. I don't know, Erik, what can you tell us about these?
Well, as we've been talking about these blueprints, and as you break down these blueprints, really what we're trying to do at NVIDIA is to create some of the foundational or core building blocks to allow developers to create these more complex agents. And kind of those build. If we break down the blueprints, the building blocks are models. LLMs, large language models, VLMs, vision language models, and a lot of tools. Because the way these agents work, they take this complex problem, they break it down, they create a plan or a task list, kind of the same way we do. They work through it. They access tools, whether that is external data through retrieval augmented generation, or they can perform some calculation, or they can do a web search, they can do a SQL query, they can use tools that are accessible to them, and they can critique their work and continue iterating until that agent feels like, all right, I've got a good response, and I'll give it back to the requester. And so on the core building blocks of building these agents is the model itself. And a lot of people think, well, there's one model sitting behind these agents. So often these agents will have multiple models that are tuned to do specific things and do certain things really, really well. So we set up. We've been our engineering and research teams have been working on new techniques to advance models for some time, and they've been doing a lot of that actually on Llama. Llama has become kind of like the leading family of open enterprise ready, production grade generative AI models, and we've been applying techniques to further improve Llama for certain types of use cases, and we publish those on on GitHub and on our website and on Hugging Face, and it's been working pretty well. So we thought, hey, let's double down on this strategy and focus on evolving a family of Llama models specifically for enterprise agentic AI. So they'll be really good at things like function calling, the use of tools, really good at math, really good at coding, things like this that are needed for these agents to perform in an enterprise setting. And then we build this family of models, and we're doing three sizes, kind of small, medium, large, nano, super, and ultra, to be able to run optimally on NVIDIA accelerated computing anywhere. So, we make small computers, we make, data center systems, and then we have data center scale, deployments. And then sometimes you'll want to use a larger model to teach a smaller model. So we have these three sizes to kind of accomplish, all these needs. And so you can build these agents and run them anywhere. Run them, like We were talking about retail. Maybe you do need to run that agent in a store, right, to provide that great experience, low latency. Or sometimes you need to run it at data center scale in the cloud, and you can do that too. And then the other thing we did is we took these models and we've made them so they can work with our Nemo software. And NVIDIA Nemo is, you can think of NVIDIA Nemo as the software that manages the life cycle of these models. It can customize them, it can evaluate them, it can guardrail them, it can connect them with external data using information retrieval, and it can kind of manage that life cycle of the model. So instead of just the model doing its work, it's custom and tuned to specific use cases. We feel that a majority of agents that are built and deployed will be very specialized. So you'll have a lot of agents working for you, but they'll be very specialized. They'll do one thing and do one thing really, really well.
Yeah,
I particularly like the Nano model, which was designed for edge and AI PCs. I think in a lot of industries, in fact, I'm expecting a huge uptick in edge. I'll be at Mobile World Congress later this year, and I know last year edge dominated that show, and I'm expecting it again. But I think when people think of what NVIDIA does, it's typically the big iron and the big data centers, right? And so you can, in fact, I've got a Jetson Nano kit back there, so Nano's a good model to run those things. So I think that again, the choice there is is interesting for the different use cases, and I think that's critical for success for the entire industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've covered the sort of big three agentic AI announcements that I saw at CES. But there's also another one that you spotted as well at NRF this week, Zeus. And I don't know if you want to sort of outline what made this stand out for you.
Well, obviously being the NRF show, they're all retail use cases. And so this was, I guess, a version that was specifically designed for retailers. And the examples they showed were very retail specific. So I could go and ask one of the agentic agents about, maybe if I'm shopping for certain clothes, and I'm buying a suit, I can ask it for a pair of shoes that match it. Or if I'm a furniture retailer, that was another example that you gave. It can suggest based on my size of my living room, where I live, things like that, a package of items I put together. And I think one of the interesting things too that often flies under the radar with AI is the internet, right? If you remember the old John Chambers days, he talked about how the internet democratized access to information. Well, AI democratizes access to expertise, right? And so often when we go into these retailers, we got to wait in line for a person. We're not able to, speak to the expert we want. Now, I think actually, the better these agents get, the more they know us, they can give us answers quicker, faster, and more accurately, right? And I think that's a notable point. I actually think, Charlie, we're going to eventually wind up at a time that when I call a brand and I get a human, I might go, I'd rather talk to the AI agent because it's going to get me information much faster. But I thought what NVIDIA showed, specifically for retail, was fascinating. In fact, I was the only one that thought that. I was at the NVIDIA booth, co-load with Dell, and it was packed, and there was a number of big brands that were there that were all checking out what you can do. But I think the ability to give your customers personalized content more accurately will help drive larger sales, in a much faster way. And I can tell you, I did 3 CIO sessions while I was at NRF, had a total of 50 CIOs across them. They all are looking at how to use AI to change customer experience. I think the art of what's possibly showed at the booth, Erik, was actually very useful for that audience.
And Charlie, what's really exciting also about that blueprint and the work that we're doing, and even there with our partners like SoftServe and Dell, is also incorporating the virtual worlds, right? Incorporating NVIDIA Omniverse into that blueprint, so you can feel some of these scenarios in physically accurate virtual environments. So, like you're talking about, hey, here's what I'm wearing. You recommend me some shoes, and it can show you what you look like, with those shoes on. Or if you're buying, new living room furniture, it'll show me what it looks like in my environment, and make that physically accurate. I think those experiences are going to go to another level versus what we have today with some of the online, configurators and things like this that help us try and feel what it's going to be like when I make a certain decision.
Yeah, it also gives retailers a lot of ability to address customer choice. That was the other thing that came up in my CIO discussions there, is they understand that not everybody shops the same way. And so you've got people that want to shop digitally and have things delivered to their home, or people that go in the store and have things, pick up in store, or any combination of those things. And so now you can create a similar experience, whether the person's in store, at home, using a VR headset in a partner studio, things like that. And so the ability to create a virtual simulation of that environment, works for so many use cases. You mentioned Erik, furniture, but home design, automotive. If you're building a car, there's just every aspect of retail can be impacted by this. So.
Yeah, excellent. And again, lots of really great stuff there, and it really shows just how exciting the next year or two is going to be in the world of enterprise technology because of the announcements that NVIDIA has made just over the past month alone. I don't know though, Erik, maybe as a final question to you, if you could tease us about something else that's perhaps coming in the next over the next few months or so.
Sure. Well, there's going to be a lot of activity happening at NVIDIA GTC. So our conference, which takes place in the second half of March, definitely, tune in and pay attention there. Like I said at the beginning, we're at the start of this kind of agentic AI wave, where these specialized agents are going to be working alongside of us doing certain things. I'd say, one thing to look forward to in the first half of this year is seeing these examples. We're going to be publishing more and more blueprints, seeing these examples, go from kind of single agent to multi-agent type workflows. We're going to start also seeing, we'll work alongside these AI agents, but you'll start seeing these agents working alongside each other to get even more complex things done. Actually at CES, one thing I didn't mention is, it was really exciting that not only did we publish blueprints, but some of our partners who are leaders in this agentic AI wave, they may not be super known names now, but they're emerging, like a Weights and Biases or a Crew AI or LangChain, Llama Index Daily. These are partners of ours that also publish blueprints that are hosted on our platform on ai.nvidia.com. And you're going to start seeing more of those as well. You'll start seeing these agentic AI frameworks evolve. We'll start seeing more kind of agent to agent type communication to accomplish more things. So I'd say, I would definitely say pay attention there. And as we evolve, we're also making the software more and more enterprise grade for our partners to build these solutions, all packaged up in NVIDIA AI Enterprise. So that will also continue to evolve, more enterprise grade software. So it's more can participate in the development of these agents than versus just the cutting edge, leading developers or researchers. So that's really exciting. And I'd say the other thing is that we all use and subscribe to many platforms that we run our businesses on. Every day we depend on them. More AI capabilities are coming to those platforms. So AI is going to be easier and easier to consume and adopt because they're going to be embedded in the platforms you're already using today. We're working with partners like SAP and ServiceNow and Salesforce and so on and so forth. The AI capabilities coming to these platforms, this wave is going to be just tremendous.
Yeah, I actually think we'll rapidly approach a day where an AI agent is built into every application that we use. And it helps alleviate the question that I get a lot from IT leaders, which is what's the ROI of AI? And my take is it's not an answerable question. It's like, what was the ROI of the internet, right? You use it that way or not. And I think it'll fundamentally change the way we interact with brands. Because right now, if you think about, like, if I want to change a flight, right, I got to go into my flight and look up new flights and do a lot of stuff myself. But if I could just ask the app, I'm thinking of changing my flight tomorrow. What do you have available? And it can complete that task for me. That's and then go change my car rental and things like that. That's a much easier way to work. And I think, Erik, some of the stuff that NVIDIA does, why I think it's important is because you're showing the art of the possible. Right, so at NRF, I saw, for instance, like a digital mirror in which I could look at myself in the mirror and I could change clothes, I could change colors, right? And that none of that stuff's possible before. But as a brand, you may not know that's possible until you see what's possible. So you can't ask somebody who runs a business, what do you want to do with AI, if they don't know what to do with AI, right? So what I think the work NVIDIA does on highlighting what's possible, I think is just, it's very important to stimulate creative thinking and, create that rising tide that we're all expecting AI is going to create.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been great, especially over the past year, just to see the amount of like NVIDIA speakers that are at the industry events that we often go to. So it's kind of sharing that story as well. I think it's going to be so important. I'm looking forward to seeing many more presentations from NVIDIA into the new year, and hopefully speaking to you both again later in the year. But it's been a great conversation for now. And I want to thank both Erik and Zeus for joining me today, and you all for watching too. Bye for now.